The title of this session is the industry forecast, and I must tell you that as I was making the drive over this morning, I was thinking what I would have given a year ago to know what we know today. I think the one lesson from all of this is that forecasts are very risky, so I'm not going to give you a forecast this morning, but I do want to look with you for a few minutes at some trends. And here's a very encouraging one. This is a little graph that shows the educational pipeline in New Hampshire. I think we all recognize that looking beyond the current rising rate of layoffs and unemployment, we all understand the longer-term importance of ensuring a supply for New Hampshire of well-prepared students who are graduating from our community colleges and our university systems. And this shows you a comparison of 2004 to 2006, that for every 100 students leaving ninth grade, we have improved the number of those who persist through the education system on to graduate from college. And this is a very important improvement, and there are many factors that have contributed to this, and perhaps later we can talk about some of those. But let's look at some other trends in our state. We all recognize the importance of a well-educated workforce, and these are some very tough economic times. And I think I need to go, here we go. The majority of New Hampshire's workforce today is closer to the end of their working careers than at the beginning of their working careers, and that is really a very sobering realization. And despite the fact that there is some slowdown in retirements owing to the current economic crisis, in other words, individuals are choosing to stay a little longer in their jobs than they might otherwise, the inevitable retirement of baby boomers is going to occur, and when it does, we want to be sure that we are positioned with the workforce we need to replace them. So that trend is hopeful. At the same time, there is a very worrying trend, and that is a high debt burden for New Hampshire college graduates. Currently, it is on average about $25,000, and those are the debt that is directly related to the cost of going to college. That does not include any discretionary spending, which can significantly increase that. At the same time, the cost of going to higher education in New Hampshire is very expensive. The university system in-state tuition is the second highest in the United States, and in the community college system, it is the first highest in the United States. And these are significant factors that affect affordability and access. At the same time, at least for the moment, college enrollments are remaining strong, both in-state and out-of-state. And as many of you know, the university system of New Hampshire is built in such a way, and our finances constructed in such a way, that we depend very heavily on a robust enrollment of out-of-state students. And currently, we are at a mix of 60% in-state and 40% out-of-state. And we are holding our own for the moment in that competitive market. At the same time, we are seeing, and Dick could say more about this, that more students are turning to community college as an affordable way to begin their college career, and I'll say more about that later. At present, applications to the university system institutions are holding strong, and we're seeing some transfer of students who have gone out of state to begin their college career coming back to New Hampshire to finish it. Another positive trend is that New Hampshire is positioned as a good place for young professionals and new college graduates. 2 years ago, I spoke to you about the 55% initiative, an effort to encourage graduates of our colleges and universities to pause and think about starting their careers here in New Hampshire. And I'm very pleased to report that we're making significant progress there. And one of the most unexpected and welcome benefits and developments of all of that is the growth of the young professional networks here in New Hampshire. And we have at present now 6 of these young professional networks that are contributing to building a network across the state, encouraging individuals to stay in our state. We are beginning to see some migration from the private institutions to the publics, but at the moment this is somewhat anecdotal, but nevertheless it's an expected impact of the economic downturn as individuals and families begin to look at public higher education as perhaps a more affordable way to get the higher education that they are looking for. And within the university system and higher education generally, we're seeing a difference in the way we are doing our core business, an increased use of technology in teaching and learning. And this makes sense for a number of reasons, not the least of which is that most of our students today are extraordinarily techno-savvy. And so they are used to accessing information in ways very different, certainly, from when you or I, or certainly when I was in college. And so to move in this direction really makes a lot of sense, both in terms of being more responsive to the needs of students today, but also to access the tremendous wealth of information that is available through technology, as well as to increase productivity in the way we do our core business. As we look ahead, these are tough budget times, as all of the speakers before me have said. The University System of New Hampshire receives a very modest subsidy from the state, and even with that, in the current financial year, we were asked by the governor and are going to provide a return of 7% of our operating budget, and that is this year alone. And I just spoke with Dick a few minutes ago, and this figure is the same for the community college system. We know that the state is still facing a roughly $40 million gap in its operations this year, and so it may not be that the givebacks are over, but we certainly hope so. But we clearly know that the coming biennial budget session is going to be an extraordinarily tough one, as current estimates say that the budget gap between revenues and expenditures could be somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 million. And we do not know, of course, yet, but all of us are paying very close attention to the news as to what the economic stimulus package will contain. At all of our institutions, we are engaged in aggressive cost containment and revenue enhancement measures. All of our institutions are engaged, and Gary will be pleased to hear this, in aggressive energy conservation measures. We are reviewing all compensation and benefits arrangements at our institutions. And all of our institutions have been challenged by the Board of Trustees to engage more aggressively in private fundraising. At the same time, I think it's really an opportunity for us to look at how, again, we do our core business. And one of the things that our board and our presidents are looking at is the development of a genuine third semester during the summer, so that students would be able to continue their educational experience. Obviously, they would need to work during that time, but then most of our students do today. But it would be a way of our making better use of the facilities that we have invested in and the staffing at our institutions. A decline in philanthropy is clearly to be expected in tight economic times, and we are seeing that. President Huddleston has reported just yesterday a 25% decline in the giving to the University of New Hampshire. An encouraging sign is the development of new pathways to earn four-year degrees. And I just mentioned very briefly two things. One is the development of the newhampshire.org, newhampshiretransfer.org, which is a website that will allow students at the community colleges to look at their academic record, overlay it with the requirements of a major at one of the university system institutions or at Southern New Hampshire University or Franklin Pierce College, and see where they stand relative to those major requirements so that they could then see a clear pathway to transfer. At the same time, we have developed the Connections program, which is a program that allows students who have applied to one of the university system institutions and who are not granted entry at that time to begin their program at one of the community college institutions, and if they take a stipulated course of study, they will be able then to transfer into the university system institutions in the next year. We are concerned, of course, as I said earlier, about the high tuition and the tightened lending market in which our students are securing or trying to secure student loans. We're worried, as I'm sure those of us who are parents sending children to college are, at the growing percentage of the family income that is required today to send your students to college. And so in closing, I'd say the following. The trends are mixed. I'm not going to make a forecast. I will say that the need for well-prepared graduates is great, and in our state, it is urgent. The funding is shaky, and as Gary said at the end of his presentation, it's going to take all sectors working in partnership to do this.